You ever sit back one day and realize the people who once hurt you aren't doing so well anymore? Not because you wished them harm, not because you chased revenge, but because life finally circled back. It's strange, isn't it? The same mouths that spoke against you now speak in silence. The same hands that pushed you down are now reaching for help. And suddenly, you understand something powerful. That pain doesn't just disappear, it returns home. Every lie they told, every wound they caused, every betrayal they thought they got away with, it all comes back. Not as punishment, but as a reflection. Life has a way of showing people who they truly are, and it never forgets what they've done. But this story isn't about their downfall. It's about your rise. It's about how you stood in the fire they built for you and came out stronger, sharper, and untouchable. Because while they were busy trying to break you, you were quietly becoming someone they could never destroy. Pain is energy. It doesn't vanish, it transfers. Every action, every word, every wound carries an energy that moves through people, shaping them, testing them, and eventually finding its way back to where it began. When someone chooses to hurt you, they think they've ended something in that moment. They think the pain will stay with you, that you'll carry it forever. But pain doesn't stay still, it travels. It passes through your heart, your mind, your soul, and somewhere along the line, it transforms. You either let it consume you or you let it refine you. And when you choose to rise instead of retaliate, something powerful happens. The energy that once tried to destroy you becomes the force that rebuilds you. When people inflict pain, they believe it's forgotten once they've moved on. But what they fail to understand is that energy has a memory. The universe records everything, every intention, every action. The cruelty they send out doesn't disappear just because time passes. It lingers, waiting for the right moment to mirror itself back to them. And when it does, it's never out of revenge. It's simply the balance of life doing what it does best, restoring order. So, when their own pain finds them, it's not your victory, it's their lesson. You may never see it happen. You may never hear the apology you deserve or witness their regret. But that's not where your power lies. Your power is in the fact that you survived what was meant to break you. You took the pain they threw at you and turned it into purpose. You didn't let their darkness become your identity. You rose above it with a quiet strength they never understood. And that silence, the calm after chaos, is where true power lives. What they gave you was pain. What you gave back to the world was growth. That's the difference between them and you. They acted out of weakness. You responded with wisdom. They used destruction. You used discipline. And while they remained stuck in the same cycle, you evolved. Because you learned that revenge doesn't heal, it repeats. The only true closure is becoming so strong that you no longer need to look back. So when life finally returns their energy to them, when the pain they caused finds its way home, you won't feel satisfaction. You'll feel peace. Because you no longer carry the weight of their actions. You've detached, you've elevated. And in that space, you'll realize something profound. What was once your breaking point became your breakthrough. You became everything they tried to take from you. The pain they inflicted on you has returned to them. Not because you wanted it to, but because that's how life works. You don't need to celebrate their suffering or seek their downfall. Just know that what was meant for your destruction became your direction. You walked through their fire, and it purified you. You are proof that pain doesn't destroy the strong, it exposes them. And in the end, you didn't need revenge. You just needed time, because life always brings everything and everyone back to balance. You don't have to watch their karma unfold. You don't need to sit there waiting for proof that life has handled it. Because the truth is, karma doesn't perform on command. It works in silence. It doesn't post its results. It doesn't make announcements. It simply moves in ways you'll never fully see. And that's exactly how it should be. When someone has caused you pain, your instinct might be to look for balance, to see them feel what they made you feel. But that's not your responsibility, and it never has been. The moment you start watching for their fall, you anchor yourself back to their energy. You tie yourself to the very thing you were trying to heal from. The universe doesn't need your supervision to deliver justice. It's already been set in motion. Every choice creates a ripple. Every act of harm plants a seed, and sooner or later, that seed grows into something that mirrors the pain they've given. But your job is to keep moving forward, to let go of the need to witness it. Because your power isn't in seeing their consequence, it's in not caring about it anymore. Detachment isn't indifference, it's freedom. It's choosing to rise above what once consumed you. Growth requires focus, and focus requires release. You can't evolve if you keep checking the past to see whether it's paying its dues. That's not growth, that's distraction. The moment you redirect your energy from them to you, life begins to shift. You start to see how everything they did to hurt you actually pushed you deeper into yourself. It taught you strength, clarity, and self-respect. You no longer need their validation, their apology, or even their downfall to feel complete. You've already won by not becoming what they are. Think about it. Every minute you spend wondering if they've faced their karma is a minute you could have used to build your peace. You can't grow in the same space you were broken in. So walk out of it. Walk into the next chapter with quiet confidence, knowing life keeps its own record. Some lessons don't need witnesses. They just need distance. And maybe, one day when you look back, you'll realize you didn't have to see their pain to know it came. You'll just feel the balance in your own life, the stillness that tells you justice has already been served. You don't need to see their downfall to know it exists. You'll know because you're free. You'll know because you stopped chasing closure and started choosing peace. You'll know because you're not angry anymore. You're grateful. Grateful that the universe handled what you never had to. Grateful that you walked away when you could have stayed and fought. Grateful that their actions no longer have power over you. And in that quiet victory, in that invisible justice, you'll understand what real strength is. Not watching karma happen, but trusting that it always does. Their cruelty shaped your character. Their comfort built their blindness. The pain they gave you didn't just hurt, it carved you open and forced you to grow in places you didn't even know existed. It made you look inward, made you question, made you rebuild. While they were busy being cruel, you were busy becoming conscious. You started to see people differently. You started to understand how pain moves, how it transforms, how it reveals truth. And in that revelation, you found something they never did: awareness. Awareness of yourself, of others, and of what real strength looks like. You learned to sit with pain without becoming it. You learned to carry it with grace, and that's where transformation begins. Their comfort blinded them. They never had to confront their darkness because they kept projecting it onto others. They never learned accountability, never learned humility, never learned how to look in the mirror and say, "I caused that." Comfort keeps people asleep, and that's exactly where they stayed, sleeping through their lessons, unaware of how their own actions were shaping their downfall. While you were healing, they were hiding. While you were growing, they were pretending. And the difference between pretending and healing is that one is temporary, the other is eternal. When someone operates from cruelty, they reveal their own fear. Their actions aren't about you, they're about what they lack. They try to transfer their pain onto others because they can't stand carrying it themselves. But the moment you stop receiving that pain, the moment you say, "This ends with me," their power collapses. You broke the chain. You stopped the cycle. You became what they could never be: someone who turns pain into purpose. That's what evolution looks like. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet and steady, and it changes everything about you. There's beauty in being forced to rebuild yourself. Every time someone tried to tear you down, you learned how to stand taller. Every time they made you question your worth, you learned how to define it for yourself. Their cruelty became your curriculum, and you studied it until you mastered yourself. The things that once made you cry now make you calm. The people who once intimidated you now don't even cross your mind. That's not arrogance, that's awareness. You've seen too much to go back to who you were before. They stayed comfortable in their own blindness, thinking they'd won. But what they didn't realize is that comfort is a cage. It keeps people small, stagnant, and unaware. You were forced into the fire, and they stayed in the shadows. But that fire gave you vision. It burned away illusions. It taught you how to see people as they are, not as they pretend to be. And maybe that's the greatest gift of all. Not that you survived their cruelty, but that you learned to see through it. You became someone they can no longer reach, someone they can no longer fool, someone they can no longer break. Their cruelty shaped you, yes, but it also freed you. And that's something their comfort will never give them. Revenge isn't power. Discipline is. Anyone can strike back when they're angry. Anyone can react when they're hurt. But very few can hold their silence and stand still while life does the talking for them. That's the difference between emotional control and emotional chaos. When someone wrongs you, the first instinct is to make them feel what you felt, to prove that you're not weak. But true strength isn't about showing force, it's about showing restraint. Because revenge gives temporary satisfaction, but discipline gives lasting peace. You can't claim to have healed if you still need them to hurt. The moment you stop chasing their pain is the moment you step into your power. It takes courage to hold your composure when everything inside you screams for retaliation. It takes maturity to stay silent when lies are being told about you. But silence doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy. When you rise above the noise, you're no longer playing the same game. You stop fighting battles that don't deserve your energy. You begin to realize that revenge might win moments, but discipline wins life. You're not here to prove who's right. You're here to prove who's growing. And growth doesn't shout. It shows. It shows in the way you walk away, in the way you rebuild, in the way you glow without explanation. The people who hurt you want your reaction because that's where their power lives. The moment you react, they know they still control you. But when you stay composed, when you respond with calm and direction, you take everything from them. You leave them powerless because there's no battle without an opponent. You didn't ignore them because you were afraid. You ignored them because you understood that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on noise. Revenge feeds your ego. Discipline feeds your soul. There will be days when silence feels heavy, when your mind tells you that staying calm means they've won. But remember, peace isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's knowing that what's meant to return will return, and you don't need to lift a single finger to make it happen. You just need to stay focused on yourself. Keep building, keep moving, keep growing. The best revenge you'll ever have is becoming everything they told you you couldn't be. Let your life be the loudest answer you ever give, and one day, you'll see the difference. You'll see how your discipline brought you peace, while their chaos brought them pain. You'll realize that the quietest person in the room often holds the most power, because it takes nothing to hurt someone, but it takes everything to heal and keep your heart soft in a world that tried to harden it. That's real strength. Not payback, not anger, but self-mastery. You don't win by fighting back. You win by never letting their darkness dim your light. Revenge fades fast, but discipline leaves a legacy. And when you've mastered yourself, no one, not even those who hurt you, can touch your peace again. Pain refined you. It didn't destroy you. It redesigned you into someone emotionally bulletproof. What once felt unbearable became the very thing that molded you into your strongest self. The sleepless nights, the tears you hid from the world, the weight you carried in silence. All of it became your training ground. You learned endurance when you thought you had none left. You discovered patience in moments that felt endless. You built resilience not by choice, but by necessity. Pain broke down every fragile piece of you, and in that breaking, it built something unshakable. The version of you standing here now isn't soft from survival, it's sculpted from it. There's a point in every person's life when pain stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift changed everything. Because pain isn't just an emotion, it's information. It tells you what matters, what needs to change, what no longer deserves your energy. It strips away illusion and forces you to see what's real. You became sharper, not colder. You learned the difference between sensitivity and weakness, between compassion and self-sacrifice. Pain didn't make you heartless, it made you clear. You stopped confusing love with tolerance and forgiveness with access. Every scar you carry now tells a story of strength, not suffering. Those scars are proof that you didn't quit when you had every reason to. You didn't become bitter, you became better. You learned how to stand alone without feeling lonely. You learned that solitude isn't emptiness, it's power. Because when the world fell silent, when no one understood your struggle, you still chose to rise. You found yourself in the ruins, piece by piece, quietly rebuilding. That's not something pain destroys. It's something only pain can create. And the most beautiful part? You didn't just survive, you evolved. You started moving differently, thinking differently, seeing differently. You learned to protect your peace, not your pride. You learned that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being able to break and rebuild again and again without losing your essence. You became emotionally bulletproof, not because you stopped feeling, but because you learned how to feel without falling apart. Pain gave you emotional armor made of awareness, wisdom, and self-respect. Now, when challenges come, you don't panic, you pause. You don't fight the storm, you navigate it. You understand that discomfort isn't a sign of weakness, it's a signal of growth. Pain refined you into someone who no longer fears endings because you've seen what new beginnings can build. The same experiences that once crushed you now fuel you. And that's the transformation people can't see from the outside. They only see your calm, your confidence, your control, but they don't see the fire that forged it. Pain didn't destroy you, it redesigned you. It took who you were and shaped you into who you were always meant to become. What they mocked you for became your strength. Every insult, every betrayal, every time they laughed at your dreams or questioned your worth, it all became the very thing that made you unstoppable. They tried to make you doubt yourself because they saw something in you they didn't have. They saw your light, your drive, your potential, and it scared them. So, they did what insecure people always do. They tried to dim it. But what they didn't realize was that every time they underestimated you, they were fueling you. Every time they said you couldn't, they handed you one more reason to prove that you could. Their doubt became your discipline. Their judgment became your motivation. And their mockery became your momentum. You learned something powerful about people in that process. You learned that most of the time, criticism isn't about you, it's about them. People project their limitations because they can't handle seeing someone aim higher. They laugh at what they don't understand, they attack what they can't control, and they gossip about what they secretly admire. You stopped taking their words personally because you realized they were never talking about you. They were revealing themselves. That realization freed you. It made you stop chasing validation and start chasing purpose. There was a time when their opinions hurt, when you carried their words like wounds. But as you grew, you started to see how small they were in the bigger picture. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped needing to be understood. Because success doesn't need approval, it needs silence and focus. You turned their mockery into muscle memory. You let their laughter echo in your mind, not as pain, but as power. Every smirk, every eye roll, every whispered doubt became a reminder that you were doing something they couldn't. You were stepping into places they were too afraid to go. You started to use their negativity as energy. Instead of breaking under pressure, you built under it. You let their disbelief become your blueprint. You didn't have to shout back. You let your results do the talking. And nothing is louder than the silence that follows your success. When people who once mocked you start to fall quiet, that's not coincidence, that's consequence. Because eventually, truth outlasts noise. Their laughter fades, but your growth doesn't. You became stronger not in spite of them, but because of them. You learned how to move without needing applause. You learned how to trust yourself when no one else did. That's real strength, staying steady while others try to shake your foundation. Now, the same things they used to mock you for are the very things that make you different, the very things that make you powerful. And if they could see you now, they'd realize their laughter only built a legend. Because while they were busy talking, you were busy transforming. You took everything they tried to use against you and turned it into everything you stand for. What they mocked you for became your strength, and that strength became your story. The cycle of pain always completes itself. It may take time, sometimes years, sometimes decades, but life always finds a way to even the scales. You may not see it happen, and you may never be there when it does, but the balance always comes. Pain is like a current. It moves, it circles, and it returns to where it started. The energy people put into the world eventually finds its way back to them. That's not superstition, that's nature. Everything we do ripples through the lives of others, and sooner or later, that ripple comes home. So when someone caused you pain, they didn't just hurt you, they sent something out into the universe that has their name on it. And no matter how far they run, it will find its way back. It's not your job to make that happen. You don't need to seek revenge or orchestrate their downfall. You just need to keep moving forward, trusting that what was meant for you will rise, and what was meant for them will return. The world has a rhythm. Actions, reactions, consequences. It's the law of balance. No one escapes the energy they create. Those who bring kindness get peace. Those who bring cruelty get chaos. And that's not punishment, it's correction. Life doesn't destroy, it teaches. Pain comes back not to harm, but to show people what they refused to see when they hurt others. You've seen this happen before. Someone who once caused destruction suddenly faces their own. Someone who once made you cry now walks through the same kind of loss they gave. But what's different about you is how you handle it. You don't celebrate their suffering. You don't smile when you see their pain. You simply understand it. You see it for what it is, the completion of a cycle. And in that understanding, you find peace. Because when you know that life handles justice in its own time, you no longer need to carry anger. You stop wishing for them to hurt and start wishing for yourself to heal. There's a calm that comes when you trust the process. You stop chasing outcomes and start living in alignment. You stop watching their life and start focusing on your own. The cycle of pain doesn't just return to them, it releases you. It frees you from needing to control how things unfold. You no longer live in reaction. You live in purpose. You start to see how everything that hurt you led to something greater. Pain forced you to grow, to awaken, to transform. Meanwhile, those who caused it remain trapped until they learn their lesson. So let the cycle do what it's meant to do. You don't need to interfere. Let time take care of what pride cannot. Let karma teach what you no longer have to explain. Because the truth is, you're not here to watch their pain. You're here to rise above it. The cycle doesn't exist to punish them. It exists to protect you, to remind you that you never needed revenge, only patience. Because in the end, everything comes full circle, and the pain that once broke you will be the reason you finally feel free. You don't heal by watching them fall. You heal by rising higher. The world teaches you to look for closure in their pain, to find peace when you see them face what they put you through. But that's not healing. That's attachment disguised as satisfaction. Real healing happens when their life no longer stirs your emotions, when you can hear their name and feel nothing, when you can remember what they did and still choose peace over anger, because closure doesn't come from them, it comes from within you. The day you stop needing to see their downfall is the day you're finally free. There's something powerful about releasing the need for justice. You realize that their pain is no longer your concern. The same way they walked away after hurting you, you now walk away without needing to explain yourself. It's not about who won or lost. It's about who grew. You don't have to match their energy. You just have to protect your own. Every time you choose to rise instead of react, you rewrite the ending of the story they started. You stop being the victim and become the author. That's where real healing begins, in reclaiming your power, not through revenge, but through renewal. You start to understand that healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about no longer being controlled by it. The memories stay, but the pain doesn't. It loses its power because you've evolved beyond it. You've seen too much, learned too much, grown too much to ever return to the same level of anger. Their actions no longer define your emotions, and that's how you know you've healed. Because healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in your peace, in your focus, in your decision to move on without looking back. And while you rise, something shifts inside you. You start to see them differently, not as monsters, but as lessons. You realize that some people were never meant to stay. They were meant to awaken something in you. They showed you where your boundaries were weak, where your trust was blind, where your love was misplaced. But most of all, they showed you how powerful you are when you finally choose yourself. The pain they caused became the very thing that led you home, to your worth, your voice, your strength. So, you rise, not to prove anything, but because staying low no longer fits who you are. You rise because healing demands height. You rise because peace feels better than pride. And as you rise, you stop waiting for karma to do its work, because it's already done. The moment you chose to move on, you broke the cycle. The moment you decided their pain is not your closure, you set yourself free. And that freedom, that calm after everything they tried to destroy, is the greatest revenge you'll ever have. You don't heal by watching them hurt. You heal by becoming untouchable. You heal by rising so high that what once wounded you can no longer reach you. Your story is your power. You turned what was meant to break you into the foundation of who you've become. Everything that was designed to destroy you ended up building you instead. You took every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment, and you didn't let it end you. You let it educate you. You began to see that every painful chapter was necessary for the person you were meant to become. Your story wasn't a curse, it was a classroom. Every experience, every setback, every silent battle taught you how to stand taller, how to speak clearer, how to protect your peace without hardening your heart. You became someone whose strength is not loud, but undeniable. People often try to hide their pasts, to erase the parts of themselves that hold pain, but you learned to carry yours differently. You stopped being ashamed of what you've been through and started owning it. Because your story isn't about weakness, it's about resilience. It's about all the moments you could have quit but didn't. It's about surviving what was meant to bury you and then using that same dirt to grow. You stopped seeing your scars as proof of damage and started seeing them as evidence of healing. That's what real power is, not pretending you were never hurt, but showing that pain didn't define you. There's a different kind of confidence that comes from surviving what others couldn't. It's quiet but unshakable. You don't have to shout your strength. People feel it when you walk into the room. They feel it in your calm, in your certainty, in your refusal to be shaken by small things anymore. Because you've already faced the worst and came out wiser. You learned that peace is not something you find. It's something you build from the pieces of your past. And your story, as heavy as it once was, became the blueprint for that peace. You realized that what was once your pain could become someone else's survival guide. You stopped hiding your experiences and started sharing them, not for pity, but for purpose. Because someone out there needs to hear that it's possible to recover, to rebuild, to rise again. You became living proof that struggle isn't the end, it's the beginning of awakening. Your story now carries weight, not because of what happened, but because of what you did with it. You didn't stay stuck. You transformed. And in doing so, you turned your story into your strength. That's the beauty of it. You didn't need revenge, validation, or recognition. You just needed to realize that your power was never lost. It was just hidden in your pain, waiting for you to find it. Everything they did to break you only pushed you closer to your purpose. You became the person you once needed, and that's what makes your story sacred. Your story is not your shame, it's your signature. It's proof that pain can become power, that endings can become beginnings, and that no one can take away the strength you earned through survival. Grace is the final move. When their pain returns to them, let it. You don't need to clap, you don't need to smile, and you don't need to announce that you were right. Let life do what it does best. Bring things full circle. The greatest strength you'll ever show is not in watching them hurt, but in not needing to. Because grace isn't weakness, it's power under control. It's the moment you could retaliate, but you choose peace. It's when you have every reason to speak, and instead, you stay silent. Grace doesn't mean you've forgotten what they did. It means you refuse to carry it any longer. You've learned that holding anger keeps you tied to what you're meant to walk away from, and you're done walking in circles. There's a deep sense of freedom that comes when you no longer seek revenge. You stop trying to rewrite the past and start focusing on your future. Grace is not about forgiving them for their sake. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of bitterness. You're not excusing what happened. You're just choosing not to live in it anymore. When you give grace, you're not saying, "It's okay." You're saying, "It no longer has power over me." That's the quiet strength that makes you untouchable. You no longer respond to pain with pain. You respond with perspective. People may mistake your calm for softness, but they have no idea how much strength it takes to stay still when your heart remembers every wound. It takes discipline to meet betrayal with composure. It takes control to face someone who hurt you and not let your emotions lead. Grace is not for the faint-hearted. It's for those who've already faced the fire and learned they don't need to throw sparks to prove they survived. You've learned that peace is the highest form of revenge because it shows you're no longer controlled by chaos. When their pain finally finds them, let it. Don't interfere. Don't celebrate. Just release it. That's not your weight to carry. Life is handling it the same way it handled yours, with timing, precision, and balance. You may never see it, and you don't have to. Grace means trusting that everything that needs to unfold will unfold, and you don't have to participate in it. You've risen beyond the need for validation or vengeance. You've learned that dignity speaks louder than any words ever could. And that's where true victory lives, in grace. Because grace isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about letting yourself off the hook of resentment. It's the moment you choose peace over pride, self-respect over reaction. The people who hurt you will eventually face their own lessons, just like you faced yours. But you won't be there to watch because you'll be too busy living, growing, and becoming everything they tried to stop you from becoming. Grace is your final move. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. You've outgrown the need to see them suffer. You've stepped into the kind of peace they may never find.